Good morning at 6:03, 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Miss Erin away for the week. She'll be back next Monday. Matt has local news. Guess what? There's guys in Shreveport and Bossier who aim guns at cops. He has details. What else is on the way? Oh, the guy who was running for president of Mexico and said that all the poor Mexicans have a right to go to the USA. He's going to be president of Mexico. Fletcher in sports and traffic and weather, and it's all coming up this hour, and it's right here on KEEL.
The power of information. KEEL News now.
A gunman is on the run in Shreveport. Shreveport police are on the hunt for Isaiah Martin. Martin is accused of shooting at Shreveport police officers during a traffic stop Sunday afternoon. Two officers pulled over a vehicle on Wallace Avenue around 4 p.m. During the stop, Martin produced a gun and fired several shots at the officers before fleeing the scene on foot. No officers were hurt during the incident. Martin is wanted by SPD for attempted first-degree murder of a police officer. Bossier man allegedly burns his own house down. David Ward has been arrested following a fire and standoff with police at his home in Bossier. Police believe Ward set fire to his own home in the 4700 block of Jeb Stewart Place. When police arrived on the scene just before 11 p.m., Ward began threatening officers with a handgun. After a brief standoff, Ward was taken into custody and arrested. The home suffered severe damage in the incident. Louisiana's new sales tax went into effect on Sunday. The new 4.45% rate is down from the 5% rate that had been in effect since 2016. The break will save residents about $5 for every $1,000 they spend. The tax is expected to generate $463 million over the next fiscal year and will fund programs like TOPS and food stamps. But what kind of effect will the results of that special session have on the upcoming governor's race? Well, Matt Doyle takes a look at that.
The final deal that fully funded higher ed and health care is being touted by Democrats who say it's a strong statement of values heading into next year's governor's race. House Democratic Chairman Robert Johnson says he's hearing a lot of support for the deal from voters.
I think most of the constituents that I've heard from are very, very pleased.
But Republican leaders like House GOP Chairman Lance Harris say they're disappointed that most of their budget reform plans were blocked by Governor Edwards and say they plan on using the special session to convince voters to kick Edwards out of office.
If we want real reform in the future of the state, we're going to have a conservative ally in the governor's office.
I'm Matt Doyle.
Senator John Kennedy is expected to be Governor Edwards' main challenger for the governor's office next year. Shreveport police need a hand tracking down a man accused of stealing over $1,100 of goods from a business on Uri Drive. Security cam footage shows a man stealing multiple items from the Simply Mac store on Uri. You can watch the footage on our website. A $1,000 reward is being offered for any information leading to an arrest. One person is dead following a late-night crash just outside of Vivian. According to Caddo deputies, the wreck happened on Highway 170 around 10 p.m. For some unknown reason, the driver of the pickup truck lost control of their vehicle and left the roadway. An investigation into the accident is ongoing. And a comedian was able to get away with crank calling the president. John Melendez, better known as Stuttering John, was able to prank call President Donald Trump after posing as a New Jersey senator. Melendez called the White House looking for the president, and he was so convincing he got patched through to Trump, who was on Air Force One. From 1017 FM and 710 Keel, I'm Matt Parker.
9 past 6 o'clock, 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Monday morning traffic. Here's Ruben.
We're starting things off looking nice and clear for your early morning drive to work, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on Shreveport-Barksdale Highway near Knight Street due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Good morning. It's 11 past 6 o'clock, 1017 FM and 710 Keel. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Erin's off this week, but Matt's here, and Matt's back, and everything's pretty much like it should be. So, ask me what you missed. Ask questions, because so much happened last week.
Okay.
That there's so much that went on in this room and beyond that it would be much better if you just sort of at your own pace rather than mine, if I kind of filled you in that way.
All right. So what was the big thing? What was the biggest, most important thing that I missed out on in my absence?
There was 1 and 1A.
All right.
Number 1 was the Greg Tarver thing with Adrian Perkins, and 1A was the Chief Crump interview.
Ooh, I heard about the Greg Tarver thing. That popped up on my Facebook feed that Adrian's not the guy I thought he was, and blah, blah, blah.
He misrepresented himself, and yeah, so I don't know what the status of all that is, that when we talked, when Erin spoke with Tarver, Senator Tarver on the phone, he said, no, I'm not going on the radio, and I'm not going to say anything more than this till after the qualifying, i.e., which is what?
July
18th, 19th, something like that. And so he wouldn't go on the radio and talk about it. But I said to Erin on Friday, that he was just dying for somebody to ask him, that he wasn't going to pick up the phone and call one of the TV stations or call KEEL and say, let me speak ill of Adrian Perkins. But he was just, as soon as somebody asks, because see, the root of it all, and among my group of friends, the 4 or 5, there were 2 or 3 that didn't know about it. And basically what happened was Adrian Perkins, mayoral candidate, had sort of a little get-together. It was scheduled for Wednesday. And at this get-together on Wednesday, he was going to, and I don't mean this as negatively as it sounds, going to trot out all the people that were going to endorse him, at least some. And it was a couple, maybe 3 Caddo commissioners, and Oliver Jenkins was on that list, although Oliver Jenkins, conservative Republican, who is now going to back Perkins, he was not at that meeting. And so on the radio said, on the radio, Erin said, well, Tarver's got to be there, right? And I said, no, I don't think he'll be there at all. And Erin said, well, if he's not there, it's a nothing meeting. And I said, no. She said, why? I said, when Greg Tarver endorses somebody, he doesn't go to their house, they come to his.
Makes sense.
I said, Greg Tarver, his official endorsement is he's not going out there with 5 or 6 other guys and getting in line. That's not what Greg Tarver does. And she says, well, I'm going to call him and see if he's going to be at that meeting. And so she calls him, and she can't, your typical Greg Tarver, I'm busy. Who the hell is this? Now, what was the line?
I'm busy as hell. Who is it?
I'm busy as hell. No. I'm busier and you tell me. You were the one he said it to.
I'm busy. Who dis? I'm busier than hell.
Who's this? I'm busier than hell.
Yeah. There you go.
So that was basically the answer that she got from Mr. Gregg. And she started asking it, but he immediately just lit into, no, I'm not going to the meeting. No, I'm not going to be there. And then he launched into those infamous quotes, all of which you can read at KEELnews.com. He's not the man I thought he was. He misrepresented himself. He's not a man of his word, etc. So that was story A. As far as the Chief Crump story goes, the Shreveport Security Systems text line is 318-392-1884. I'll say that again. 318-392-1884. As best as you can, you tell me, or better yet, you tell Matt, what you thought of last week's interview with Chief Crump. Specifically, how did the chief present himself to you? Specifically, were you encouraged or discouraged by the plan or lack of plan when it comes to fighting crime in Shreveport? Going back, and Erin cited this not only with Sheriff Prater when we had him on Friday, but also with Chief Crump. And Erin cited the mayor probably a couple or 3 weeks ago at one of the Monday City Council work sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And Miss Ollie had said, we are working on a plan. We're putting a plan together. We are implementing a plan. We are working with the sheriff's department on that plan. And when we had Sheriff Steve on Friday morning, and Erin said, that's what Ollie said. Tell us about the plan. And Steve said, do you want the politically correct answer, or do you want the Steve Prater answer? And Erin said, well, I want the Steve Prater answer. And he says, well, there's no plan.
Wow. I'm not shocked, but that's just...
In fact, when we talked to Mr. Steve about that, he said, there's no plan. The only thing we're doing, and God, I forget the term again, and I apologize. Warrant search, warrant something, but let's say warrant search for the sake of the story. And Sheriff Steve said, well, all we're doing is this warrant search thing. An hour and a half later, we have Chief Crump on, and he says, are you kidding? We're implementing the plan. We've got this warrant search thing going on. So on one hand, Steve says, well, this is warrant search. On the other hand, then Crump comes on and says, well, it's just we got this warrant search. It's awesome.
He was pumped about it while Steve was like, yeah, it's kind of a waste.
What do we say all the time about Tarver and Glover?
That two guys can look at the same problem and see two completely different things?
Two guys look at a blue sky, and one will tell you it's blue, and one will tell you it's red, and they're both convinced that they're right.
Mm-hmm.
That was basically it. Prater, there's no plan. Oh, we got this warrant thing. And Crump comes on and says, man, things are going great. We got this warrant thing. And the rest of the interview was up for interpretation. And I'm putting that nicely.
That's an interesting way to phrase it.
That's why I mentioned the Shreveport Security Systems text line at 318-392-1884. I want to know what listeners thought.
And I would assume, I wasn't here, but I would assume that much like all of our other interviews, it's available at KEELnews.com if you haven't checked it out or heard what the chief had to say.
Lots of pauses, lots of thinking, lots of and it was interesting because about that, God, I don't have it. Erin didn't send me a copy. And it was, we each got a number of texts and emails from folks inside the department.
Mm-hmm.
Who were, let's say, somewhat at odds with what the chief had to say. So we'll leave that at that. I am interested to see what kind of texts we get over the next 5 to 10 minutes from listeners based on what they heard. Great day for David Toms yesterday.
Yes, he sunk, what was it, 2 big putts right at the end?
Oh, my God. On 17 for a par, 16 for a birdie, 17 for a par, and then a tough 2-putt on 18 to secure the U.S. Senior Open Men's Championship, which is a huge deal. And he was, it was as nerve-wracking as you can imagine. Fletcher is back.
Fletch is back.
And he has sports coming up next. 19 past 6 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Ruben's here. Traffic time.
Looks like I-49 South's got to clear all the way to Alexandria right now, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-220 westbound near North Market due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Good morning, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Time for sports.
Good morning from the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger. This is Tim Fletcher. Sunday afternoon in Colorado Springs, Colorado. David Toms earned his first PGA Champions Tour win, and it was a doozy. Toms rammed home a 3-foot par putt on the 72nd hole to claim the U.S. Senior Open, the second major championship in the Shreveport-Bossier golfer's career. Toms also has a PGA championship from his days on the PGA Tour on his resume. His last win professionally, 2011 at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. The win was worth over $580,000 for the airline and LSU alum. LeBron James wasted little time in potentially changing the arcs of 2 franchises next season. He's leaving Cleveland for the Lakers. The 4-time MVP and 3-time champ agreed to a 4-year, $154 million contract. The Astros were cooled down by Tampa Bay 3-2 on Sunday, while Texas was doubled up by the White Sox 10-5. From the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger, this is Tim Fletcher.
Twenty-three past 6 o'clock, 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. Robert and Erin. Erin's off this week, back on Monday, but Matt's back.
I am back.
There was a lot of awesome stuff happened this weekend. We'll talk about this morning. The David Toms deal.
Mm-hmm.
LeBron going to the Lakers. More on that. This kid Robert Williams from North Caddo, who seems to have the world on a string, except at the other end of that string, there's no clock. More on that is on the way. You know, I don't understand, and I don't know how you are. I just don't understand not being on time.
Well, he wasn't just not on time. You know, if he was just not on time, maybe I could get it, being a professional athlete and whatnot. But not showing up at all.
We'll talk about it later. This is the North Caddo kid who was drafted by the Celtics, who basically, the morning after he was drafted, overslept, missed a phone call for a press conference with the Boston media. And then over the weekend, I guess, was supposed to go to Boston for his first workouts and another press conference and missed his flight. So
that's basically someone trying to hand him a briefcase of cash, and instead of taking it and saying thank you, he's just flipping him the bird.
The keys to the kingdom, and all you have to do is be on time. Yeah. I've said this for 1,000 years about Axl Rose. It's you can have everything. I mean, to me, he's one of the most, I'm going to say recent examples. There's 1,000 of them. But you can have everything you want. Fame and fortune and I mean, everything you could possibly want, all the money you could ever spend. You will be so highly thought of within your industry. You will become legendary. You will be legendary. And all you have to do is not put a needle in your arm. Nope, sorry. That's.
It took him a long time to understand that.
You know, all you got to do is stay off heroin. Really? Wow.
You mean I can quit drugs and be nice to fans and they'll give me even more money?
I like heroin. Heroin's cool. I saw just a million things. The guy that I talked about last week, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, the one who said, the Mexican presidential candidate who said that it is the right of all poor Mexicans and Central Americans to move to the United States. One, he's going to be president of Mexico. We'll talk about that later. Yeah. But the most amazing thing, and then, of course, the Maxine Waters stuff. But the most amazing thing I saw this weekend, and I was reading an article in, of all things, Harper's Magazine. And basically, it's a guy writing about the death of New York City. Again. But the point is, and here I even wrote it down, the phrase, there is a term, not only in New York are there official terms and levels for what is poverty for a family of four. They always say for your average family of four. But I saw the term this weekend, and in New York City, the New York City government has a term called near poverty. Near poverty for a family of four.
Okay.
You know, we always play that old radio high-low game. You're too high. Huh? What do you think in New York City the amount near poverty for a family of four is?
Near poverty.
Yeah. Near poverty, where you're barely getting by. You can't make the rent.
95,000.
You said that to screw me up, didn't you? $95,000?
Yeah.
No, that's way too high. That's why I said you said that to screw me up. Do you know what near poverty is in New York? Now, imagine, you know what it costs? Look, I know some people that are getting ready to move back here. Married couple. She's from here originally. Her husband is not.
Mm-hmm.
They have been in Savannah, Georgia. Now, imagine the culture shock of moving. Imagine the real estate price, which is basically a lot like Charleston, South Carolina. Where in Savannah, you're paying $1 million for something that in Shreveport you can probably get for $275,000.
Yeah.
In New York City, what do you think a good living is in Shreveport? 50, 60 grand?
Probably get by pretty good with 60.
If you make 200 grand in Shreveport, you can do anything you want anytime you want.
Yeah, pretty much.
Near poverty in New York City, as defined by the city government of New York.
I can't wait.
$47,634. You are considered poor, near poverty in New York if you have a job that pays $1,000 a week. And I just got to thinking that's what has happened to that city. Well, look in San Francisco. The average, what is it, like 1.2 The average home in this is $1.2 million. I mean, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can still get a place in. By the way, we got to talk about this later, too. Because when you were gone, we started to talk about my trip to New Orleans. And this is what made me segue in my head, talking about San Francisco and how bad the homeless problem is in San Francisco. Have you been to New Orleans lately?
I have.
From in downtown New Orleans, the length of I-10, where it runs from about the river all the way back up to, I guess, a little past Canal at the end of downtown. Mm-hmm. It's a tent city. Under the underpass is a tent city of homeless. And if you told me there were 5,000 to 7,500 homeless people living in tents under the I-10 underpass in downtown New Orleans, you could say 10,000 because I drove by it. You could say 10,000. I wouldn't say you're lying. But I would guess between 5,000 and 7,500.
That's crazy.
And it's not getting better. 29 past 6 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Matt has local news up next. Here's Ruben.
Looks like I-49 South's got to clear all the way to Alexandria right now, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-220 westbound near North Market due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
The power of information. KEEL News now.
Louisiana's new sales tax went into effect on Sunday. The new 4.45% rate is down from the 5% rate that had been in effect since 2016. The break will save residents about $5 for every $1,000 they spend. The tax is expected to generate $463 million over the next fiscal year and will fund programs like TOPS and food stamps. And with all the talk about taxes and spending, residents can now keep a better eye on how that money is spent as the state is rolling out Louisiana Checkbook. Kevin Barnhart has that story.
Policy Director at the Division of Administration, Jock Berry, says the state government prioritizes the idea of transparency and that it's ranked 7th in the nation. While the website will start with only a few select departments, Berry says it is expected to be completed with all departments of the state government over the next few years.
The entire implementation schedule is a 3-year schedule and waived to hope to have the entirety of state government spending accessible to citizens by 2021.
You can see the website for yourself at checkbook.la.gov. I'm Kevin Barnhart.
A gunman is on the run in Shreveport. Shreveport police are on the hunt for Isaiah Martin. Martin is accused of shooting at Shreveport police officers during a traffic stop Sunday afternoon. 2 officers pulled over a vehicle on Wallace Avenue around 4 p.m. During the stop, Martin produced a gun and fired several shots at the officers before fleeing the scene on foot. No police officers were hurt during the incident. Martin is wanted by SPD for attempted first-degree murder of an officer. A Bossier man allegedly burns his own house down. David Ward has been arrested following a fire and standoff with police at his home in Bossier. Police believe Ward set fire to his own home in the 4700 block of Jeb Stewart Place. When police arrived on the scene just before 11, Ward began threatening officers with a handgun. After a brief standoff, Ward was taken into custody and arrested. The home suffered severe damage in the incident. Shreveport police need a hand tracking down a man accused of stealing over $1,100 of goods from a business on Uri Drive. Security cam footage shows a man stealing multiple items from the Simply Mac store back in April. You can watch the footage on our website. A $1,000 reward is being offered for any information leading to an arrest. One person is dead following a late-night crash just outside of Vivian. According to Caddo deputies, the wreck happened on Highway 170 around 10 p.m. Sunday night. For some unknown reason, the driver of the pickup truck lost control of their vehicle and left the roadway. An investigation into the accident is ongoing. Authorities say a pedestrian who was struck by an on-duty police officer in Baton Rouge has died. The Baton Rouge Advocate reports the pedestrian struck by an on-duty Baton Rouge officer on Saturday has been identified as 51-year-old John Payne. Officials say Payne was pronounced dead at a hospital. The officer was not injured in the crash and has been placed on paid administrative leave. And King James has a new throne. After opting out the last year of his contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James has signed a 4-year, $153 million deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
Wow. 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Just completely unrelated to anything.
Okay.
The band Imagine Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty big band right now.
Yeah.
How familiar are you with them? The lead singer, do you happen to know the kid's name?
I do not.
He's a Mormon. There is a documentary on HBO about him and the fact that he is Mormon. And I don't want to get into more than that, but just it's sort of like the conflict between specific moral issues and his job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The music business can tend to be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Immoral.
They play a little fast and loose with the rules.
And it's just an interesting, I mean, I didn't know, I know it's an interesting band, and I know a couple of their songs, but I didn't know the guy's background. And it's just an interesting, little documentary. So, Shreveport Security Systems text line 318-392-1884.
Is this about the chief, or is this related to something else?
No. This is pertinent. This is pertaining to Friday's interview with Chief Crump, and I none of them are nice, so I hesitate to read them. Please tell me when you will have him on again. I haven't heard tap dancing like that since Ben Vereen. A little 70s reference.
Wow.
There. Yeah. That one's too mean. Are you really making us listen? He's not saying, no, we'll stop there. Interesting. I live in Bossier and work in Shreveport. See, this goes back to, and at the end of the day, and what I was talking to friends about this weekend, is that despite this cry, what's the one thing other than Mayor Tyler? What's the one thing that every Shreveport mayoral candidate, what's the one thing they have in common? They say they're going to replace the police chief.
Oh, yeah.
We got to get a new guy. And yet, and it has to do with different different reasons both inside and outside the department. But the point I was going to make was, for all the cries from any number of corners, any number of sectors about the sheriff's department, Caddo Sheriff should be helping out SPD.
Mm-hmm.
The actual on-the-ground guys, the foot soldiers, if you will, of SPD, have rejected, for the most part, that assistance outright also. They're saying, we don't need the help. What's the phrase we hear all the time? Just let us do our jobs. And that came up in the interview with Chief Crump about the ratio of officers that are actually on patrol and in the street compared to those who are working desk jobs. Shreveport Security Systems text line. I live in Bossier, work in Shreveport. I would like to see the comparison of patrol officers versus desk jobs between the two cities. You can't drive 2 miles in Bossier without seeing a patrol car. I spend all day in Shreveport and never see one.
That is true.
639, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Ruben's here. Traffic update on Keel.
Looks like I-49 South's got to clear all the way to Alexandria right now, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-220 westbound near North Market due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and very hot today, high near 100. A spotty thunderstorm this evening, patchy clouds, low 76 for tonight. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
It's my show. I can do whatever.
Yeah, just don't use any foul language.
No, just dump this bumper. I put this in for Erin Spinners, games people play. That was one of the, remember, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel, Matt will tell you. She goes through these phases where she hates the stagers, the bumper music, or she loves them all. And I said at one point, well, just give me a list of what you want. And it was all spinners and stylistics and four tops and all this old stuff.
After, 2 weeks before that, we can't have anything pre-1990.
Nothing before 95. Just as an aside, because I don't hear the commercials because they just because we don't play them in the headset in the studio. We had the Corby's spot on there before that. Did I do the endorsement for Corby's, right?
I suppose.
Look and see. Scroll back and see. Can you?
I just got to get back over there.
I think we did. The reason is because I mentioned in passing, although I didn't really hit on that hard in that spot, and I've got to do another one. It's everybody has lunch rotation, right? You've got your rotation of restaurants. And the newest one for me and my buddies, I'm not making this up, is the Corby's Grill.
No kidding.
They have daily lunch specials that are, pardon me, freaking awesome. The two cooks there, Miss Martha and I think Princess is the other one, and they are knocking it out of the park. I hadn't planned to get into this. I hadn't planned to do another live ad for Corby's. But we went a couple of days last week. I mean, smothered pork chops is one day. It was fried chicken one day. It's awesome. It's of all the places, I mean, we'll go in for a couple of beers and a snack, after, and the hamburgers are great, and we've had them there. But we just started going for the lunch specials. And these two ladies are just knocking it out of the park. And of all the places that you would think would never end up, so what's in your lunch rotation? Well, let me see. We've got the barbecue place, a Real Barbecue, and Evie's, of course. And we go to Maryland's all the time. You got any new ones? Yes. Quirby's Grill. I'm not joking. Well, I'll take you one day. It's incredible.
I need to check it out.
Okay. So the guy we talked about last week, what's his name? Not Malmo, AMLO. Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, who is the leading candidate to win the Mexican presidential election.
All right.
He won. By the way, I've got a friend of mine, and I'm not going to mention names because he has family here too, and he spends about half his time in Mexico City and working for a big company. And I texted him last week. I said, so what do you, and more specifically, he works for a Mexican company. And I said, more specifically, your boss, I mean, the guy who owns the company. What do you guys think about this Lopez Obrador guy who's running for president of Mexico? Still waiting for an answer. Nothing. So the story we had last week, here's the headline. Mexican presidential candidate. Now understand, when I say presidential candidate and refer to this guy, understand he won in a landslide. This guy won, and won big. And in Mexico, if you win big, it's because the working class, i.e., people without much, are voting for you. And that's where, to a great degree, we'll get into the irony. But I continue. Mexican presidential candidate, and when I say candidate, remember I'm saying the guy who won. Mexican guy who won calls mass migration to the USA a human right. Mexican guy who won, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, has declared mass immigration. Now, a lot of folks heard me do this story last week, and there's an addendum to this. And so we have to, we'll analyze and try to draw conclusions. The guy who won says that mass immigration by the poor to the United States is a human right for all Mexicans and Central Americans. And very soon, he said at a speech, the guy who won, after the victory of our movement, the guy who won continued, we will defend all the migrants on the continent, all the migrants of the world. It is their right to leave their towns and find a new life in the United States. He then declared Mexican migration to the United States a human right that we must defend. You've got that look.
Well,
You're thinking what I was thinking. Wait a second. The guy who is the guy who won,
the president, the man in charge,
is saying, vote for me because this place sucks and I want you to leave.
Yeah, he wants to be president, or is president of a country where he's encouraging all the people who live there to leave.
And so I likened this last week to the Shreveport mayoral race. What if there was a guy? What if Erin McCarty announced her candidacy for mayor of Shreveport? And they said, well, Ms. McCarty, what's the cornerstone of your campaign? And she said, I have a way to double the median income of Shreveport. Really? What's that? Jobs, new businesses, companies coming to town? And she says, nope, I'm sending all the poor people to Bossier. That's basically what this guy is doing.
Yeah.
And the people that he wants to leave the country, the cornerstone of his campaign. Well, there was more, and we'll get to that in a second. Literally what AMLO, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, is saying, this country sucks. We're a failed narco state. I can't fix it. And what I'm suggesting you should do is carry your ass to the USA because they'll give you free food, free housing, free education, and free health care. That's your best opportunity. You, the people who are voting for me, get. And that's exactly what happened. And that's exactly what happened. He won. He's the guy who won. Now, as if that were not bad enough, one of his other campaign promises, and I referred to Mexico as a failed narco state. He has vowed, he has promised to stop using the military to fight the drug cartels. So here's the guy who won, who ran a campaign based on, I want all the poor people to leave. If you're poor, get out of Mexico. We don't want you here. Go to the USA for free stuff. And campaign pledge 2 is, I'm not going to fight the drug cartel. MS-13 can do whatever they want, including go to the U.S. Remember, this is the guy who won.
I think my plan needs to be put into action immediately.
Which plan was that?
You remember my border plan? Move the military that's not stationed overseas down there and let them do the protection. A human wall.
Like one great big red rover.
Yeah.
649, 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Your Money Now is next. Here's Ruben.
Looks like I-49 South's got to clear all the way to Alexandria right now, but look out later on this morning for some traffic delays on I-220 westbound near North Market due to construction. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Good morning, 6:52, time for Keel Sports.
Good morning from the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger. This is Tim Fletcher. Sunday afternoon in Colorado Springs, Colorado, David Toms earned his first PGA Champions Tour win, and it was a doozy. Toms rammed home a 3-foot par putt on the 72nd hole to claim the U.S. Senior Open, the second major championship in the Shreveport-Bossier golfer's career. Toms also has a PGA championship from his days on the PGA Tour on his resume. His last win professionally, 2011 at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. The win was worth over $580,000 for the airline and LSU alum. LeBron James wasted little time in potentially changing the arcs of 2 franchises next season. He's leaving Cleveland for the Lakers. The 4-time MVP and 3-time champ agreed to a 4-year, $154 million contract. The Astros were cooled down by Tampa Bay 3-2 on Sunday, while Texas was doubled up by the White Sox 10-5. From the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger, this is Tim Fletcher.
Good morning, 654, 1017 FM and 710 Keel. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. I believe.
I can fly.
I think we have Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser at 10 past 7 o'clock.
Billy.
Billy. And what movie is that? Oh, Caddyshack.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know I've never watched it all the way through?
What?
Yes, I know, as odd as it sounds, and my golfing friends make fun of me.
It was on TV this weekend, and I watched that and Groundhog Day back to back.
Greatest sports movie ever. What do you think?
Ooh.
I mean, most would say Caddyshack. Most golfers would say, but I've never seen it all the way through.
Miracle was really good.
Miracle is great. That's the 1980 Olympic hockey movie. The Greatest Game Ever Played with Shia LaBeouf is pretty darn good.
I don't know if
it's
I've
about
ever
Francis
seen that.
Ouimet, who was like this 18-year-old kid that won the U.S. Open golf tournament in like 1920-something.
You know what?
Maybe before then.
You know what sports movie I really like that no one ever seems to remember?
What's that?
The Will Smith one, The Legend of Bagger Vance, or whatever the hell.
No, it's horrible.
What?
No, that's the worst movie ever. Oh my God! First of all, it's imagine something that is so racially insensitive that I am offended by it. That to me is almost as racist a movie. I mean, it's awful. And the book's not much better, but the book is at least better than the movie. No, Bagger Vance is like the worst. Bagger Vance is the Abraham Lincoln vampire killer of sports movies. The most racist movie ever. And Will Smith should be made to sit there and watch it and apologize. So should Jack Lemmon, because he did the narration. 656, 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Here's Rush.
Every American male has learned, like in the last 10 years, that when a woman says no, she means no. Doesn't mean maybe, it means no, right? Well, pay attention, folks. On Sunday, the news analysis section of the New York Times featured an article titled, "When Saying Yes is Easier Than Saying No." It's by Jessica Bennett, the gender editor of the New York Times. That is her actual title. Now, she and her female friends have spoken with knowing nods about the nuances of sexual interactions. Sometimes they say there's a place of no return where having sex is easier than bailing out. And she says that there are names for this, like gray zone sex or begrudging consensual sex or lukewarm sex. Sex you're kind of about, meaning bored, apathetic, and then there's bad sex because of how you feel afterwards. But there's one passage I want to quote verbatim. She writes, "Consent isn't always black and white. Sometimes no means yes, because you actually do want to do it, but you know you're not supposed to, lest you be labeled a slut. And if you're a man, that no often means just try harder, because you know persuasion is part of the game." This woman doesn't know it, but she's a throwback, because she's exactly right. In the old days, no, more often than not, did mean yes. It's called seduction, and you might want to look it up in the dictionary if you're offended right now. Say, folks, last month I told you all about the big savings during Mahindra Dealer Days. Well, I've got some great news. My good friends at Mahindra have extended Dealer Day savings into July. That means it is not too late to hurry into your local Mahindra dealer for incredible summer savings on Mahindra's subcompact, compact, and utility tractors, plus a full line of utility vehicles. And Mahindra's long-lasting powertrain warranties still come standard. So if you missed out last month, don't wait another day. Care for the land you love with the tractors and UTVs that I recommend, Mahindra. To learn more about the world's #1 selling tractor and huge Dealer Day savings, visit MahindraUSA.com.
Take advantage of rock-bottom prices and test drive a Mahindra today at Kelly Tractor and Equipment in Longview, or visit kellytractor.net. That's kellytractor.net.
The intersection at Uri Drive and East Kings Highway is dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now, and we have some traffic delays on East Texas Street near Airline Drive in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Breaking news and trending talk. This is 1017 FM and 710 KEEL. KEEL, Shreveport.
Good morning at 7:03. Robert and Erin, 1017 FM and 710 KEEL. Miss Erin away for the week, so Matt has local news in a second or two. Guess what? Cops involved shooting in Shreveport. Who'd have thought? He has details. A big day. Well, a big weekend in sports. One, if you're not buying your kids golf clubs, then you got to get the stretching rack, because not only is there money in golf, there's big money in tall people. Plus, Fletcher in sports and traffic and weather, and it's all coming up this hour, and it's right here on KEEL.
information. KEEL News now.
A Bossier man allegedly burns his own house down. David Ward has been arrested following a fire and standoff with police at his home in Bossier. Police believe Ward set fire to his own home in the 4700 block of Jeb Stewart Place. When police arrived on the scene just before 11 p.m., Ward began threatening officers with a handgun. After a brief standoff, Ward was taken into custody and arrested. The home suffered severe damage in the incident. A gunman is on the run in Shreveport. Shreveport police are on the hunt for Isaiah Martin. Martin is accused of shooting at Shreveport police officers during a traffic stop Sunday afternoon. Two officers pulled over a vehicle on Wallace Avenue around 4 p.m. During the stop, Martin produced a gun and fired several shots at the officers before fleeing the scene on foot. None of the officers were hurt during the incident. Martin is wanted by SPD for attempted first-degree murder of a police officer. One person is dead following a late-night crash just outside of Vivian. According to Caddo deputies, the wreck happened on Highway 170 around 10 p.m. Sunday night. For some unknown reason, the driver of the pickup lost control of their vehicle and left the roadway. An investigation into the wreck is ongoing. Louisiana's new sales tax went into effect on Sunday. The new 4.45% rate is down from the 5% rate that had been in effect since 2016. The break will save residents about $5 for every $1,000 they spend. The tax is expected to generate $463 million over the next fiscal year and will fund programs like TOPS and food stamps. Political analyst Bernie Pincinat says he expects U.S. Senator and former State Treasury Secretary John Kennedy to be Governor John Bel Edwards' main opponent for the governor's mansion. He says having Kennedy spearhead a conservative push in Louisiana next year will likely boost the profile of the 22 House Republicans who refused the final tax bill.
The Republicans who are against the taxes will have John Kennedy who will be against the taxes. Kennedy's favorite saying is, we have a spending problem, not a revenue problems.
Pincinat says he expects the race to start heating up as we get closer to 2019. 3 Southeastern Louisiana University baseball players saved a woman from a car fire in Canada. Connor Farrell has more.
Evan Pace, Trey Morgan, and Kyle Schimpf, along with their coach, were on their way to a summer league game in Kelowna, Canada, when Pace says they spotted a burning car.
We look to our right, and there's a car just chilling in the ditch, so we should probably get out and help, and he slams on the brake.
After saving the woman, the players befriended her while driving her to a safe location. Pace says the group's quick thinking and kindness was fueled by the golden rule.
I would want somebody to stop if it was somebody of my family. My number one concern was making sure everybody was okay.
I'm Connor Farrell.
Shreveport police need a hand tracking down a man accused of stealing over $1,100 of goods from a business on Uri Drive. Security cam footage shows a man stealing multiple items from the Simply Mac store in Uri back in April. You can watch the footage on our website, KEELnews.com. A $1,000 reward is being offered for any information leading to an arrest. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
Nine past 7 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, traffic time. Here's Ruben.
The intersection at Uri Drive and East Kings Highway is dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on East Texas Street near Airline Drive in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline at 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast, partly sunny and very hot today, high near 100. A spotty thunderstorm this evening, patchy clouds, low 76 for tonight. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Good morning. It's 12 past 7 o'clock. Robert J. Wright, Erin McCarty, 1017 FM and 710 KEEL. Erin off this week, back 1 week from today. He is one of my favorite guests. He is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Louisiana, Mr. Billy Nungesser. Hey, Mr. Billy, welcome back to KEEL. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Happy 4th of July to you.
Thank you, sir. God bless America. So I am looking at your recent calendar here, and I see one of the things that the National Lieutenant Governors Association held in New Orleans. I want to know everything that went on at this kind of convention deal of lieutenant governors from across the country. But my first question is, since it was in New Orleans, where else would all the lieutenant governors want to go? Who else would compete for this? How else would any other city stand up to New Orleans for any kind of convention?
Well, I tell you, every lieutenant governor jockeys for it because it gives them a chance to highlight their state and all the great things they have to offer. And when I first got elected, I put our name in the hat, and we were able, we competed against San Diego and Missouri and Nashville. But we got selected by the committee and hosted here in New Orleans, and had a great opportunity for us to highlight not only our city and our state, but the great Louisiana seafood, and have some real good discussions about the imported seafood and how we need to do a better job inspecting that. So we got to take up some local issues on the panels with hurricane recovery, disaster recovery, because other states have different disasters, but just a great opportunity to brainstorm about things that we can do better in each of our states.
When I go to radio conventions, and I hardly ever go because it's just basically, well, you can imagine just a bunch of guys who think a lot of themselves in the room trying to talk the loudest. What is a lieutenant governor's convention like, and what's the common thread, given that the duties of lieutenant governors vary so greatly from state to state?
Well, we know a lot of times our federal elected officials get to Washington and not a lot gets done. The lieutenant governors are more in tune with things that really need to change from a local level. And so we get together, and where we can find common ground, we support and ask our congressional delegations to get behind and support legislation on things important to the states, kind of boots on the ground. We heard and passed a resolution supporting child obesity legislation that, realizing some of these young kids, we've got to make that a priority. We also heard about things that are now being produced to help make schools safer. There's a light fixture type thing that can be put in classrooms that automatically calls police when there's gunfire. new things that are coming out to make schools safer, legislation we can be involved in. We've rallied around supporting the arts, America for the Arts, all these things that are important to quality of life back home that we can maybe have some influence as a unified group in Washington.
You know, most folks know that the lieutenant governor of the state of Louisiana, sort of like big tourist promoter number one, and that's a great part of your, but another part of your job is promoting Louisiana businesses, not only across the country, but internationally. And you just brought up something I want you to talk more about, and that's the marketing of Louisiana seafood, because that is such a huge industry for us.
Absolutely. You know, we've seen an influx of imports, and less than 1% of the imports get inspected, and a good portion of those are turned back because of either antibiotics or they're just not safe. So we're pushing legislation that would require maybe a 5 or 10% per pound import fee, not a tax, but an inspection fee, so we could hire thousands of inspectors and inspect more of this imported seafood, because a lot of it's unsafe. And if you eat Chinese or Taiwan seafood that's chock full of antibiotics, and you eat it for years, and then you take antibiotics for a sickness, they won't work as well because you become immune. So we want to bring attention to that. It'll help our local seafood be more competitive, and it is the best in the world.
You know, I am looking ahead, and this, on one hand, I was going to say this is your busy season, but A, you're always busy, but B, this has got to be sort of your fun season, too, around the state for summer, where you're going to different festivals and meetings, and it's almost like a vacation. Dare I say that?
Well, I tell you, it's I enjoy getting out and visiting with the people of Louisiana. You know, we've got over 400 fairs and festivals. Nowhere else in the world can you have so many things to do on every weekend of the year. And the people in every area of the state are so passionate, and each fair and festival has a little special flavor. And I keep saying I'm going to get to all of them before I die, and every year they keep adding new ones. We added the fried chicken and the beignet festival here a year or two ago.
Whoa, the fried chicken. Where is that?
That's in New Orleans, and it had thousands of people show up, and everybody bought their best grandma's recipe, and was a big hit. So, yeah, every time they can't think of anything else, somebody comes up with a new one.
A little bit later, in fact, just a few days away, because you're going to be spending a good amount of time here in North Louisiana in July. And the one thing I want to touch, let me see. I've got the North Shreveport Business Association on the 10th, but also I want you to talk about this in wrapping up. You are going to be speaking to the Louisiana Police Chiefs Association on July 10th. What are you going to say to those folks?
Well, I mainly go around to those conventions to say thank you. We only hear about the problems in law enforcement, but we don't hear about the men and women that are out there 24/7 putting their life on the line every day. So I try to go to every law enforcement convention in the state and every firefighters convention and first responders to let them know that we appreciate what they do every day and see how we can better work with them or support them in the communities. A lot of times, if other elected officials will get involved in helping law enforcement out, whatever it may be, community involvement, we can really make a difference in helping bringing those communities together. So I go there to say thank you, and I go there to listen to see how maybe I may be able to help in any way throughout the state for those police chiefs to help with their communities to make them safer.
In just a couple of days, the United States of America, 242 years since its inception, since its founding. What are you going to do? What will Billy Nungesser be doing on Wednesday? And if you want to fall into, what does 4th of July mean to you?
Well, those founding fathers came together, and incredible vision, incredible courage, and then a couple of those fell apart after, and then they rekindled and made up many years later. And we see that going on in Washington now. And if we can think back to what it took when and to envision what our country has become, we owe it to them to really come together and try to work as a team to solve some of these problems. I was down in Houma Saturday celebrating with a lot of veterans, and I'll be in Baton Rouge in a 4th of July parade, and then 4th of July morning I'll be on the SS Kid there in Baton Rouge talking about how we should honor our veterans every day and never forget the sacrifice many have made and their families. And today, we can celebrate 4th of July, barbecue, softball, fireworks. A lot of men and women have given up their 4th of July so we can have ours in freedom. And on that day, think about the men and women that are away from their family, still keeping our country safe. And we need to pray and honor them every day.
The Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana, Mr. Billy Nungesser. Billy, thank you so much for your time. You are always welcome here, and I hope you're in studio with us soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. God bless you.
19 past 7 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Sports just ahead. Right now, traffic time. Here's Ruben.
The intersection of Mansfield Road and West 70th Street is dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on Old Minden Road near Airline Drive in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Twenty-two past 7 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Big day yesterday for one Shreveport guy. Fletch has details.
Good morning from the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger. This is Tim Fletcher. Sunday afternoon in Colorado Springs, Colorado, David Toms earned his first PGA Champions Tour win, and it was a doozy. Toms rammed home a 3-foot par putt on the 72nd hole to claim the U.S. Senior Open, the second major championship in the Shreveport-Bossier golfer's career. Toms also has a PGA championship from his days on the PGA Tour on his resume. His last win professionally, 2011 at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. The win was worth over $580,000 for the airline and LSU alum. LeBron James wasted little time in potentially changing the arcs of two franchises next season. He's leaving Cleveland for the Lakers. The 4-time MVP and 3-time champ agreed to a 4-year, $154 million contract. The Astros were cooled down by Tampa Bay 3-2 on Sunday, while Texas was doubled up by the White Sox 10-5. From the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger, this is Tim Fletcher.
Billy never disappoints.
No, Billy's pretty awesome.
Is he on our list of like guys that we have on the air regularly we like to go have caramel-colored beverages with?
He would definitely be on my list.
Well, I don't drink caramel-colored beverages, but you know what I mean.
I do.
1017, boy, do you. 1017 F. What was that beer you were having Saturday night?
It's one of our local beers. Great Raft, Reasonably Corrupt.
Yeah?
Yeah.
They seem to be selling a lot of those.
Oh, Great Raft is killing it.
Seriously.
Oh, yeah.
See, I'm not, look, let me, 1017 FM, 710 Keel. We are, and is it, because I'm not a craft beer drinker. I'm not much of a beer drinker. To be blunt, you make fun of me. I drink Coors Light. Why? Because it tastes the most like water when it's cold. Okay? But is it my mistake? Am I mistaken in thinking that this craft beer thing, that this brewery thing is really catching on here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got what? 2 big ones, and then the third one, was it Red River, does all right, too. So, I mean, Great Raft, Flying
not
Hard.
only that, but the number of restaurants, like, for example, Rotolo's closed and just reopened on 70th Street, Rotolo's Pizzeria. And now it's Rotolo's, what is it, Craft and Crust.
Yeah.
I mean, there are restaurants, and I saw another one that's getting ready to reopen. And is it Bojack's, the Cajun? It's Cajun food, but it's Cajun food, and I think they're kind of sort of building the whole thing around another craft beer place.
Huh.
So, and not only obviously beers from here, Frank's has done that forever
Yeah.
at Frank's Pizzeria.
Well, you know, a lot of people were really into wines and the complexity and the way it opens up your palate and blah, blah, blah. Well, beer is just as good and can be just as enjoyable if you look for, you know, tones and flavors and stuff like that, aromas. And a lot of the craft beers that are out now, not only that are being produced here in the state, but across the nation, are top-notch, on a different level type stuff.
Know nothing about it. You know why? I drink Coors Light because when it's cold, it tastes the most like water.
Wimp.
Living in the dark. We had Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser on, and we were talking for a second about not only 4th of July, but some New Orleans stuff. How much do you know? And I ran across this by accident this weekend, and I saw a little video on it, and I was so intrigued by the video that I just went on and read some stuff. How much do you know about the Battle of New Orleans, or more specifically, the War of 1812?
Very little. What I know is basically comes out of that Johnny Horton song.
Well, the point of the video, and then the article, a couple of articles I read, a couple of stories I read, were that there were really 2 wars for independence. One, the Revolutionary War. But the second was the War of 1812 that was from like 1812 to 1815, 1811 to 1815. And the point being is, once again, we were invaded. We were invaded by England. Not only that, and you probably know this, that during the War of 1812, Washington was ransacked. It was sacked. It was burned to the ground. And you read all the time about Andrew Jackson sort of beginning he had already been, he had not been to an elected, he was head of a Tennessee militia guy, and ended up commanding the troops at the Battle of New Orleans. And, you know, they beat the British back at the Battle of New Orleans, et cetera, et cetera. And the U.S. won the war. But I didn't realize the purpose of that whole War of 1812, because if you look, most of the War of 1812, it took place on the east coast of the USA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like the Revolutionary War, Virginia, Maryland, northern South Carolina, et cetera, et cetera. And I was reading about it, and the whole purpose of the Battle of New Orleans was that the British realized that if they could take New Orleans, that they could reinstitute their influence into the territory that had been purchased from France, the Louisiana Purchase. And the whole purpose of wanting to take New Orleans was to expand their empire once again, this time not in the eastern USA, but in the southern part of the continent. And that if they controlled New Orleans and were able to move northward, draw the Mississippi River as a line, they knew they could keep the United States from expanding westward. And so it was this big, the Battle of New Orleans was this, in the big picture, this huge geopolitical, thinking 100 or 200 years in advance kind of thing. And it was in American history. It's more than just a Johnny Horton song. In the scope of American history, it was one of the biggest, most meaningful events in our history. And that's why. And that's what I found out this weekend. 29 past 7 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Here's Ruben.
The intersection at Mansfield Road and West 70th Street is dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on Old Minden Road near Airline Drive in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Power of information. KEEL News now.
Louisiana's new sales tax went into effect on Sunday. The new 4.45% rate is down from the 5% rate that had been in effect since 2016. The break will save residents about $5 for every $1,000 they spend. The tax is expected to generate $463 million over the next fiscal year and will fund programs like TOPS and food stamps. And with all the talk about taxes and spending, residents can now keep a better eye on how that money is spent as the state is rolling out Louisiana Checkbook. Kevin Barnhart has that story.
Policy Director at the Division of Administration, Jock Berry, says the state government prioritizes the idea of transparency and that it's ranked 7th in the nation. While the website will start with only a few select departments, Berry says it is expected to be completed with all departments of the state government over the next few years.
The entire implementation schedule is a 3-year schedule in waves to hope to have the entirety of state government spending accessible to citizens by 2021.
You can see the website for yourself at checkbook.la.gov. I'm Kevin Barnhart.
A gunman is on the run in Shreveport. Shreveport police are on the hunt for Isaiah Martin. Martin is accused of shooting at Shreveport police officers during a traffic stop Sunday afternoon. 2 officers pulled over a vehicle on Wallace Avenue around 4 p.m. During the stop, Martin produced a gun and fired several shots at the officers before fleeing the scene on foot. No police officers were hurt during the incident. Martin is wanted by SPD for attempted first-degree murder of an officer. A Bossier man allegedly burns his own house down. David Ward has been arrested following a fire and standoff with police at his home in Bossier. Police believe Ward set fire to his own home in the 4700 block of Jeb Stewart Place. When police arrived on the scene just before 11, Ward began threatening officers with a handgun. After a brief standoff, Ward was taken into custody and arrested. The home suffered severe damage in the incident. Shreveport police need a hand tracking down a man accused of stealing over $1,100 of goods from a business on Uri Drive. Security cam footage shows a man stealing multiple items from the Simply Max store back in April. You can watch the footage on our website. A $1,000 reward is being offered for any information leading to an arrest. One person is dead following a late-night crash just outside of Vivian. According to Caddo deputies, the wreck happened on Highway 170 around 10 p.m. Sunday night. For some unknown reason, the driver of the pickup truck lost control of their vehicle and left the roadway. An investigation into the accident is ongoing. Authorities say a pedestrian who was struck by an on-duty police officer in Baton Rouge has died. The Baton Rouge Advocate reports the pedestrian struck by an on-duty Baton Rouge officer on Saturday has been identified as 51-year-old John Payne. Officials say Payne was pronounced dead at a hospital. The officer was not injured in the crash and has been placed on paid administrative leave. And King James has a new throne. After opting out of the last year of his contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James has signed a 4-year, $153 million deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
$736, 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Miss Erin back on Monday. Town Square Media, Shreveport Cluster, IT, and what does IT abbreviate? I have no idea.
Technology, information technology.
That was it. Okay, and engineer Troy Jones. Now you and other head engineer Rick Shelton. Everybody, we get 2 or 3 of these a day. And we don't answer all the texts or emails. We try to get most of them. But one of the ones that Erin and I constantly answer are the, I can't hear your AM anymore texts. Yeah. And we explain to folks that we had by little problem, I mean like major disaster with the AM transmitter. What was it now, about 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
What happened exactly?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to address that, yes, this is a cluster. This radio station.
Hello,
group,
Steven Jackson.
Group. No. This group of radio stations. So yeah, we did have the main transmitter we have had a catastrophic failure. The back of it, due to the make and model of it and the way it was designed.
So is this like one of the first 1930s ones or something?
No. It's relatively new.
Really?
Yeah, it was relatively new. But the about 20-something years old, 15, 20 years old. And of course,
so it's like Matt, relatively young, but wore ass out,
right? And capable of catastrophic failures. Yes.
What the hell? Just shh. We're talking about you. Just to sit over there.
The main transmitter suffered a large failure on the back plane of it, which actually stopped it from operating.
Now, normally we're 50,000 watts day.
Yes.
5,000 night.
Yeah, directional.
Directional south.
Yeah, southerly lobe, as they say. That's right.
Got to protect that Kansas City 710.
It did. And then, so the back of the transmitter had a catastrophic failure. When it failed, around 300 volts went where it didn't belong, and caused the transmitter to be inoperable. When that happened, we immediately went to the auxiliary within 30 minutes or so.
Which is how many watts? About 1,000?
About 1,000 watts.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That
so basically a good hair dryer.
No, 1,000 watts, but we didn't go directional, so it was omnidirectional.
Gotcha.
We did have a backup transmitter on site, of course, and we remotely operated it until we arrived on site and found the smoky smell. Right. So we worked on the auxiliary transmitter until we had some storms in the area, and that transmitter also had some damage, but we were still on the air on it. We then immediately after
so we were pumping out our AM signal at what was it, 250 watts or something
Somewhere
like that?
around there, yeah.
I mean, that's basically a disaster for an AM radio station. Now we've got the FM also,
yes,
and the stream, but that's not good.
Yeah, we were batting 1,000. The idea.
So we had to order a new one. The problem is, do I understand this correctly? Nobody makes new AM transmitters.
Well, no, that's not correct. The company that we had that we bought the original main transmitter for, not the original transmitter, the one that we were on, no longer makes the parts for that transmitter to be able to repair it. So we would have to have them custom made. And if we had them custom, we actually did have backups on site, backup parts for the main transmitter. However, those parts were frequency specific. So we got them from another transmitter that had, been taken out of service. But those parts were frequency specific and would not work. So when we did place the order for the new transmitter, they have to build it for us.
I bet they ain't cheap.
They're not cheap. They're not cheap. But they had to build it for us. So it got in the pipeline of building it. It's a company called Nautel. And Nautel is building and has built the new transmitter.
When they bring it in, because it's here, and you will be throwing the switch later today.
Allegedly, supposedly. Yeah, believe it or not.
How big is it? What do they bring it in on?
Big, huge dollies and lifts, tailgate lift. We loaded it in the building Friday. We did a bunch of connections to it. We had the electricians there Friday, getting it all going. Just so you know, it's 480-volt service. So we were very, very cautious and slow putting everything in to make sure we were safe.
That sounds
and
like a
equipment
lot.
Was protected.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
So the transmitter is in place. The transmitter has connectivity. The transmitter is, has electricity to it. We did some preliminary testing on Friday, but we weren't prepared to turn it on over the weekend without monitoring.
Gotcha.
So we have another engineer actually driving in right now from out of state, so that we have enough personnel on site to be able to handle all the duties that we still have to perform.
The point is, KEEL during the day at 50,000 watts, booms. The point is that KEEL at night pointed south at 5,000 watts, booms. And this will enhance both of those to a degree that we haven't been in a lot of years, right?
That's correct. Well, no. I mean, we've been on 50.
But this will be better than the previous. I assume this new 50 will do a better job than the old 50 did?
It actually is equal. Again, the FCC license requires us to operate at license parameters, so we'll be at license parameters. Hopefully, right?
Yeah. Now who's the Republican, right?
Right.
Pump that thing at 110.
Hey, his opinions are definitely bought and paid for because we have the receipt.
Well, it will be here, and
it's already here,
and it's in the building.
It's in the transmitter building.
Excellent. I just wanted an update, and I've tried to explain to folks what happened as far as our couple of minor disasters, or one big one, one little one. And so later today, if all goes according to plan, back to 50,000. That'll be awesome.
We hope so. And again, we have some. You got to understand that we use 6 towers to broadcast off of. So that's something else that a lot of listeners don't quite understand. There's a video that I'll provide you later on for some drone footage of the KEEL Tower site.
Oh, my God, send me that. That would be an awesome post on the website.
But it's huge. It's relatively huge.
Got to run, kid. I appreciate your time. Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
I got to get out there to the transmitter site.
Don't forget the rubber pants. 741, like mine. 19 away from 8 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Here's Ruben.
The intersection at St. Vincent Avenue and West 70th Street is dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on Benton Road near Shed Road in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, accidents, hazards, or closures, give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
So not only was I watching David Toms, Shreveport guy, David Toms, win the United States Senior Men's Open Golf Tournament yesterday, I was like texting about 10 or 15 different people who were all watching it, and we were going crazy. I mean, it was as nerve-wracking. Oh, my gosh, because he'd be a shot ahead, he'd be a shot behind, he'd be tied, there'd be 5 guys tied, he'd be a shot ahead again, he'd be 2 shots behind. It was like, David! And finally, in the end, he made a birdie on 16 to take a 1-shot lead. I think I got this right. A birdie on 16, a lengthy putt to take a 1-shot lead. Got up and down from about 100 yards. It's a golf term. The point, he made about a 15 or 16, maybe 18-foot putt on 17 for par to maintain the lead. He knocked his tee ball on 17 into a bunker. And from the lip of a bunker, it was, I mean, you could not fit another golf ball between his ball and the edge of the bunker.
Wow.
And the lip of the bunker. And he got it out, and he's got about 100 yards to get up and down, just like when he beat Phil to win the PGA Championship in Atlanta a while back. The point being, he drops about, I want to say, 15, 16-foot putt for par to maintain a 1-shot lead. Then gets to 18, perfect tee ball. Knocks the ball, his second shot on the par 4, knocks it to the center of the green. And he's got a 2-putt for the win. And he knocks it about 2 to 2.5 feet past, which, as you know, is a knee knocker.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the way they do greens at U.S. Opens. That's just the way the USGA does it. They are like putting on your kitchen floor, like putting on tile, like putting on a driveway on glass. And he jars the par putt and wins by a shot. He finished 3 under for the tournament. I think it's like an $800,000 win and a major championship for a well-deserved. And that's his first senior tour, PGA senior tour win.
Yeah, it's his first overall win in what 4 or 5 years, something like that?
7 or 8 since his last PGA tournament win. I think that was Colonial in Fort Worth. I'm not 100% sure. But I have met him. I've never really, odd as this may seem, I've never met David Toms.
What?
I've shaken his hand. The only time I've spent time around him was at his grandfather's funeral. I was good friends with his grandfather, Tom Ed. His granddad and my father were really good friends, had coffee together with that, what I call OGC in Bossier, Old Guy Coffee, a tradition which, by the way, continues to this day, where I'm sort of, except for rare occurrences, the old guy is me. But it goes back to when I moved back in the middle to late 90s, and my dad was still driving. He was still alive. And every Saturday he would go to the old, it was Merle's. Then what was it? Darrell's. What was the old Darrell's in Bossier? And he and David Tom's granddad and about 5 or 6 other guys in their 70s or 80s would hang out and drink coffee. And let me tell you, the days that I got to spend with those fellas, hearing stories. Imagine a scenario with guys who are so riveting and so awesome. And the guys who made America great. David Tom's granddad was a tank commander for Patton in Germany during World War II at like the age of like 20 or 21. Oh, the stories he would tell.
I bet.
Oh, my God. I've never told you the Duesenberg story, and I don't have time. I don't have time. I apologize. But let me tell you, David Tom's granddad found a vintage Duesenberg in this guy's garage. And it ended up going, I'm taking this car home. You know who's got that car? Well, Patton did. General Patton confiscated the Duesenberg. There's way more to it than that. But congratulations to David. An awesome win, well-deserved, and hopefully lots more on the way. 749, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel traffic time. Ruben's here.
The intersection at St. Vincent Avenue and West 70th Street is dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on Benton Road near Shed Road in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, accidents, hazards, or closures, give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline, 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
The KEEL app is brought to you by Office Furniture Source. Download the app today. KEEL.
1017 FM, 710 Keel, 752. Here's Fletch.
Good morning from the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger. This is Tim Fletcher. Sunday afternoon in Colorado Springs, Colorado. David Toms earned his first PGA Champions Tour win, and it was a doozy. Toms rammed home a 3-foot par putt on the 72nd hole to claim the U.S. Senior Open, the second major championship in the Shreveport-Bossier golfer's career. Toms also has a PGA championship from his days on the PGA Tour on his resume. His last win professionally, 2011 at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. The win was worth over $580,000 for the airline and LSU alum. LeBron James wasted little time in potentially changing the arcs of two franchises next season. He's leaving Cleveland for the Lakers. The four-time MVP and three-time champ agreed to a 4-year, $154 million contract. The Astros were cooled down by Tampa Bay 3-2 on Sunday, while Texas was doubled up by the White Sox 10-5. From the sports desk of 1130 The Tiger, this is Tim Fletcher.
If I ever have about 20 minutes, I could tell you the Duesenberg story. But it's an amazing 1017 FM 710 Keel. Robert and Erin 754. And you know what's the best part of the story?
What's that?
Is that for one of my birthdays when he was David Tom's granddad, Tom Ed, He gave me a model of the Duesenberg that he got out of that guy's garage in Germany. That patent eventually confiscated.
That's awesome.
I still have it. I've never taken it out of the box. It's on a shelf somewhere. I mean, it is one of my most, he was such an amazing, he was an awesome guy. And that he and my dad were just, I mean, it was old guy coffee, man. I mean, the real old guy coffee. What we go to now on Saturdays in Bossier, it's like old guy coffee phase 2. Old guy coffee 2.0. But the original old guy coffee at the old Darrell's right there on Airline Drive. It was my dad. It was Tom Ed. There were 2 Earls, Big Earl and Little Earl. And then there were 2 or 3 other, M.D. Ray, the old airline football coach, who I still see around at Marty's barbershop in Bossier. It is so freaking awesome to be part of a place. And I'm talking about me now, that since I moved back in 95, 96, it is just so incredibly awesome to be to have those memories, to have known these people, not only because they're awesome people and amazingly moral men who built this country post-World War II, and World War II for that matter. They were the guys that won the war, the greatest generation. But to have these memories of them and have known them and to have them have been part of my lives and still be, in some instances, part of my life, and to know that they are from here and that I am from here and have that connection. I tell people all the time, they say, why did you move back here? Why did you make a conscious decision to stop being a major market morning disc jockey and move back to Shreveport? And I said, because you can't put too much value. You can't place too much value on knowing how a place works. And I know how Shreveport works. I know how Bossier works. And I don't mean that in a graft or corruption or negative way. If you're from a place, Andy knows how Mayberry works. Barney knows how Mayberry works. Jed knows how Beverly Hills works. I know how Shreveport works, and that makes it priceless to me. 756, 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Here's Hannity.
Turn up your radio. Here's the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
Comey and Strzok and McCabe and Page and Loretta Lynch, all of them abused their power because they put the fix in to save Hillary from an indictment in jail because she was the favored candidate, and then they actively, purposefully went to undermine Donald Trump with lies. And FBI spies inside the Trump campaign, and then lying to FISA court judges, violating the FISA law, which is so crucial if you believe in the Fourth Amendment to our Constitution against unreasonable search and seizure. That's all true, too. And everything that we've said has been right, accurate, and true.
Check out the Sean Hannity radio show later today, right here.
I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. Buying a home should be one of life's best experiences, but today's fluctuating interest rates can leave you with unexpected higher payments. And that can turn a great experience into an anxious one. At Quicken Loans, we've created a new way to protect you from unpredictable interest rates. It's called the power buying process. We check your income, assets, and credit to provide you with a verified approval, which can give you the strength of a cash buyer. Once verified, you qualify for our exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, we lock your interest rate for up to 90 days while you find your new home. Then, once you've found your new home, if rates have gone up, your rate stays locked. But if rates have gone down, your rate drops, and you get to keep that new lower rate. Either way, you win. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030. Additional conditions or exclusions.
The intersection at Lakeshore Drive and Hearn Avenue is dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on McDade Street near Barksdale Boulevard in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
The KEEL app is brought to you by Office Furniture Source. Download the app today. KEEL. Breaking news and trending talk. This is 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. KEEL, Shreveport.
Good morning. It's 8:03. Robert and Erin, 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Erin off this week. Matt has local news in a second. Guess what? It's the weekend in Shreveport. What? Cops? Guns? Bad guys? How did you know? Steve Parr from American Ground Radio joins me in a couple of seconds. Lots to talk about. Fletcher is back. What? There's sports and traffic and weather all coming up this hour, and it's here on KEEL.
information. KEEL News now.
A gunman is on the run in Shreveport. Shreveport police are on the hunt for Isaiah Martin. Martin is accused of shooting at Shreveport police officers during a traffic stop Sunday afternoon. Two officers pulled over a vehicle on Wallace Avenue around 4 p.m. During the stop, Martin produced a gun and fired several shots at the officers before fleeing the scene on foot. No officers were hurt during the incident. Martin is wanted by SPD for attempted first-degree murder of a police officer. Bossier man allegedly burns his own house down. David Ward has been arrested following a fire and standoff with police at his home in Bossier. Police believe Ward set fire to his own home in the 4700 block of Jeb Stewart Place. When police arrived on the scene just before 11 p.m., Ward began threatening officers with a handgun. After a brief standoff, Ward was taken into custody and arrested. The home suffered severe damage in the incident. Louisiana's new sales tax went into effect on Sunday. The new 4.45% rate is down from the 5% rate that had been in effect since 2016. The break will save residents about $5 for every $1,000 they spend. The tax is expected to generate $463 million over the next fiscal year and will fund programs like TOPS and food stamps. But what kind of effect will the results of that special session have on the upcoming governor's race? Well, Matt Doyle takes a look at that.
The final deal that fully funded higher ed and health care is being touted by Democrats who say it's a strong statement of values heading into next year's governor's race. House Democratic Chairman Robert Johnson says he's hearing a lot of support for the deal from voters.
I think most of the constituents that I've heard from are very, very pleased.
But Republican leaders like House GOP Chairman Lance Harris say they're disappointed that most of their budget reform plans were blocked by Governor Edwards and say they plan on using the special session to convince voters to kick Edwards out of office.
If we want real reform in the future of the state, we're going to have a conservative ally in the governor's office.
I'm Matt Doyle.
Senator John Kennedy is expected to be Governor Edwards' main challenger for the governor's office next year. Shreveport police need a hand tracking down a man accused of stealing over $1,100 of goods from a business on Uri Drive. Security cam footage shows a man stealing multiple items from the Simply Mac store on Uri. You can watch the footage on our website. A $1,000 reward is being offered for any information leading to an arrest. One person is dead following a late-night crash just outside of Vivian. According to Caddo deputies, the wreck happened on Highway 170 around 10 p.m. For some unknown reason, the driver of the pickup truck lost control of their vehicle and left the roadway. An investigation into the accident is ongoing. And a comedian was able to get away with crank calling the president. John Melendez, better known as Stuttering John, was able to prank call President Donald Trump after posing as a New Jersey senator. Melendez called the White House looking for the president, and he was so convincing he got patched through to Trump, who was on Air Force One. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
Eight past 8 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Here's Ruben.
Still keeping an eye on some backed up traffic on I-20 westbound near Spring and Market. And we have some traffic delays on Benton Road near Green Acres Boulevard in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Good morning. It's 11 past 8 o'clock. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty, 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. Erin away this week, back a week from today. Joining me for this hour, Stephen Parr from American Ground Radio, heard nightly on Keel, Mr. Steve, and Louis R. Avalone. I have not seen you in forever.
I know it's been a very, very long time.
I mentioned this, and it's going to sound way more negative than I mean it to be, but you had, last time I saw you, you had way more hair.
But that could have just been weeks ago. I mean, it's fallen out rapidly.
See, how old are you now?
I am 45.
Okay. And so when I started to first notice that I was getting a bald spot in the back, I was probably in my late, I want to say 40, 42, 40, something like that.
Okay.
And it was a radio station video, and the camera was behind me, and I noticed this open range. And
you're like, who's the bald guy sitting in my spot?
I freaked out. And then as it got, basically, I sort of did a deal with myself that if I could need a comb, if I still required a comb at the age of 50, then I would be good with that.
Sure.
And that's about how long it lasted. But I got to tell you, it's that hairline. Okay.
Yeah, most people have 4 heads. I'm up to about a 7 head.
See, here's the deal: is if you measure the distance between my eyebrows and my chin, i.e. my face.
Right.
If you measure the distance from my eyebrows to my chin, the distance from my eyebrows to my chin is the same as the distance from my eyebrows to my hairline. So literally, I have room for a whole nother face.
Just right up there. And we have a petition going around.
What's that?
to get you one.
You can draw. I got room for another nose right there in the middle. What you been up to? I have not seen you in forever.
I've been doing radio. I don't know if you noticed this, but if you really want to do radio right, you got to do a lot of research and read the news and stay up on current events.
Or you work with Erin, and politicians just text you all the time.
Right? You guys break some great political news here like nobody else. You really do.
We are very lucky to, and I said to Erin a couple of days ago, when all the Tarver stuff and with Perkins was happening.
Yeah.
And I said, think of all the stuff we know now that we didn't know 2 or 3 years ago about how a place works. And she says, yeah, that's true. And I said, imagine how much more we'll know in a couple more years. Or the trust that we will have that if you tell me this, your anonymity will not be... We'll sit on it, I promise.
Right.
Just let us have the quote,
Well, see, that's what's amazing about honest journalism, about real journalists, is that you don't go and publish anonymous sources, and you don't go and just run off hey, a guy in the hallway told me that. You don't burn your sources. You don't. You guys are like, look, this is how it really is, and you know more than you're willing to say because you're trying to protect people and you're trying to protect those sources and keep that information solid. And I have genuine respect for that.
I had a friend of mine call me last night, and he's about my age. And we got to talking about the current state of American politics, specifically on the political left becoming more and more and more crazy to the point of, and this was the point of his conversation, of his calling, and he was talking about not only the Antifa riots in Portland,
right?
What was it? No profit, no prison, no borders was their chant. No profits, no prisons, no borders.
No clue.
And he was talking about that, and he was talking, sort of tied that into Maxine Waters and some of the threats of the near
pushback
threats of violence that are coming from the political left. And he asked me 2 things. He said, 1, Maxine Waters and a lot of Democrats, how is this not sedition? How is this not sedition, where you are encouraging violence? And I said, I got 2 words for you, buddy, Steve Scalise. If you don't think that clock's not ticking again, 2 questions, and I want you to start here, and then we can pick it up in the next segment.
Okay.
So a 2-part question for you. Why is it that the political left is becoming more and more fringe, crazy? The Trump hatred is so overwhelming and irrational. And 2, is it going to turn into something it's already turned into something more than words, as we saw in Portland this weekend.
Right. Well, and your best example is the shooting of the Republicans at the baseball a year ago.
Bluntly put, because I could hear not only concern in my friend's voice, but I don't think I'm overspeaking to say I think I heard fear in his voice.
And fear, by the way, is what drives the radicalization of the left, because once you start to convince yourself, man, Donald Trump is Hitler, and they're not saying Donald Trump's like Hitler, they're saying Donald Trump is Hitler. So when you start to say, yep, I believe that Donald Trump is Hitler, you deal with genuine fear, and fear makes you start to see things that aren't real. And that fear leads to more fear. It leads to, that whole Yoda thing from Star Wars, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hatred, hatred leads to suffering. That is absolutely true, and that's what the left is doing. The reason they're becoming more and more fringe is based on 100% fear of something that's not true.
Is it, and I mentioned this a couple of months ago, and I said the Democrats now, the political left, because you can say the Democrat Party is radical left. I mean, it's
the socialists. The big story last week was the socialist in New York City who unseated the 10-term leader of the
guy.
Yeah. And so Obrador, and she isn't just Democrat, she's Democrat socialist. Now, when you start to say, boy, the left is becoming violent, it's because they're becoming socialist. Name a socialist country, a genuine socialist country that isn't also rooted in political violence.
And what I had said was the Democrats, the leftists, the socialists, the communists, all one great big ball of anger right now.
Well,
I said
their
like,
logo's a fist.
I said they're like, yeah. I said they're like Lucifer in Dante's Inferno. It's better to rule in hell than serve in heaven. And they would rather America be hell and rule that hell of the America that they want. They want America to, they are willing to make America hell so that they can rule rather than serve in an American heaven.
But they don't see it as hell. And here's why I say this on the show all the time. It's noble cause corruption. When you believe you are fighting for a noble cause, you start to believe that it's okay to do ignoble things. So it's okay to do the wrong thing if you're doing it for the right reason. That's what noble cause corruption is all about. So it's okay to punch a fascist in the face if you just assume that other person is a fascist. You don't have to do any fact checking. Just assume that person's a fascist. Then it's okay to punch him in the face. That's why Antifa thinks their riot in Portland was okay, that they stood up to the man, because they've fallen prey to noble cause corruption. I got to tell you, it is never okay to do the wrong thing. Even when you think you're doing the wrong thing for the right reasons, you're still doing the wrong thing. That's what the left has lost sight of.
Steve Parr, American Ground Radio, with Louis R. Avalone, weeknights here on KEEL from 6 till 7.
Yep.
Got that right, didn't I?
You got that right. You nailed it.
50% chance. More is on the way. 19 past 8 o'clock, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. Here's Ruben.
Still keeping an eye on some backed up traffic on I-20 westbound near Spring and Market. And we have some traffic delays on Benton Road near Green Acres Boulevard in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Ever
21 past 8 o'clock. KEEL Sports.
Good morning from the sports desk of 11.
Don't lose that thought, because that's what we're going to cover in the second half hour.
All right.
Because it'll pop into my head as soon as the show's over. You put your headphones, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. It's long been my theory that when you put the headphones on and you're getting all this external stimuli, your voice, music, other people's voices, your IQ drops about like 40 points.
Right.
Well, I don't have 40 points to give anyway. So, oh no, tell him what my IQ is. He won't believe you.
What is it, 63?
No,
it's sorry, it's 83.
85, 84, 85.
185? 184?
No, I'm totally serious. No,
double digits.
I don't test well.
Really?
I can't do. I have minor dysgraphia, and so much of what is an IQ test has to do with patterns and lines and what comes next. And as soon as I see that, my brain freezes up and I fart and I get a 85.
He doesn't test well. He doesn't think well. He's just very good at speaking.
Well, he makes up for it in personality.
Yeah.
So
hi, everybody.
Hey.
What were we going to talk about?
I don't know.
The director of the movie Z. And it's a late 60s political thriller about a political assassination in Central America. And you said just one, and I said, well, yeah, it's because it's only a 90-minute movie. But the point being, that will be the springboard for our segment in the second half hour about Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, referred to as Almo, the new president of Mexico, and what this means for the USA. But before we do, you played soccer. You're a big soccer guy.
Yeah.
So you must be in heaven with the World Cup on.
Oh, no.
Why?
The U.S. isn't in it. I mean, I'm watching. Don't get me wrong. I'm still watching the games and stuff, but the U.S. isn't in it. So every game, I'm like, well, the U.S. isn't in this one, so this is going to be an awful 2 hours, and so I watch the game anyway.
Erin is rooting. Erin is rooting for Mexico because. Hold on. And it kind of makes sense if you know Erin. She said, I'm rooting for Mexico. I said, what? And she said, because they're on the same continent. And I said, so basically your World Cup theory is like SEC football. If LSU loses, you root for Alabama because they're an SEC team. And she said, that's 100% right. Does that make any sense to you at all?
No. Look, I went to the University of Texas. I will never root for Texas A&M, period. just won't do. I have lots of friends who went to Texas A&M. I ain't ever rooting for them. Mexico is our biggest rival, and Landon Donovan did a commercial where he said Mexico was his other choice, his other favorite.
That's Erin's.
And no,
Quisling, turncoat, traitor.
No. Right. One, watch how they play. Yuck. But two.
So let's get to this.
Yeah.
If you can, in 30 seconds,
Uh-huh.
tell me what it is I'm missing about soccer, because to me, it's the only major sport. I mean, when a guy does something awesome, like that scissors kick guy a few months ago, I go, I've never seen anything.
It's amazing.
But
yeah.
But that happens once a year. The rest of the time, I'm not trying to bust you.
No, I
I'm trying to
understand.
expand my knowledge, my horizons.
All right.
So,
how many World Cup games have you watched?
What is it? It's the only major sport where in the highlights they show guys not scoring. It would be like on NFL Red Zone if they showed incomplete passes.
They sometimes do. You know what was the most rerun clip of a couple years ago in the NFL? It was when the Cowboys, the catch that wasn't.
But that was a catch, and I'm not even a Cowboys fan. Let me try this and see if I'm not off the mark.
All right. Well, if you're off the mark, we'll put you on the highlights.
When I lived in Cleveland a bunch of years ago, I lived down the street from a guy who was a player for the Cleveland Crunch indoor team named Hector Marinero.
Okay.
I don't know if you know the name or not.
I do know the name.
And he played for them and was one of the leading scorers. And he would always talk about how he didn't really love the indoor game. And I would say, why? Because to me, the indoor game was bam, 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 15-12. It's awesome. There's scoring. Bodies are flying.
Right.
And he said to me something that I didn't understand until later, and I'll tell you what it was. He said, the beauty of the game is at midfield.
Yeah, that's where the fight is. That's where the battle is.
To me, there was just a bunch of guys running around with no purpose, no direction, no strategy, just hoping to kick it down to the other end and make a goal by accident. That, to me, is what soccer is.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
All right.
Because I'm going to explain to you how I was wrong.
Okay.
So Hector says to me, the beauty of the game is at midfield. I said, no, the beauty of the game is like bodies are flying and crashing into each other, and there's goals every 10 seconds. And then a couple of years later, I was introduced to arena football. Now, I, as an American, was raised on football.
Of course.
I know football. I understand football as well as a layperson can.
Right.
But the point being, I went to my first arena game, and bodies are flying.
Yeah.
And there's scoring every couple of seconds.
Absolutely.
And somebody said, how did you like it? And I said, not very much. And they said, why? And I said, well, because of the limited space. I said, there's not room for things to develop.
Right.
It's not real football.
Right.
And all of a sudden, this light bulb went off in my head.
And you were using all 84 IQ points.
And I was using the same explanation for why I didn't like arena football.
Yeah.
It being the game I was raised with and understood. I was using the same explanation for why I didn't like arena football. My explanations were the same reasons that Hector Marinero didn't like indoor soccer.
Okay, so one of the things people say about outdoor soccer they don't like is there's no scoring, right? Okay. Well, that's actually the same reason why I don't really like basketball. Back to the big movie out in the theaters right now is Incredibles 2. In Incredibles 1, Mom is telling the little kid, hey,
Holly Hunter,
everybody's special. And Dash says, which is another way of saying nobody is. In basketball, each team's scoring like 100 points, which means that no basket means anything. In soccer, every goal is important.
Like hockey.
Hockey, too. Yeah.
829. Okay, going to talk about the border, going to talk about the new Mexican president, and we're going to talk about what the Democrats will run on in 2018 and 2020, and why it is like an albatross like no other. 101.7 FM, 710 Keel traffic update. Here's Ruben.
Still keeping an eye on some backed up traffic on I-20 westbound near Spring and Market. And we have some traffic delays on Benton Road near Green Acres Boulevard in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
Hour of information. KEEL News now.
Louisiana's new sales tax went into effect on Sunday. The new 4.45% rate is down from the 5% rate that had been in effect since 2016. The break will save residents about $5 for every $1,000 they spend. The tax is expected to generate $463 million over the next fiscal year and will fund programs like TOPS and food stamps. And with all the talk about taxes and spending, residents can now keep a better eye on how that money is spent as the state is rolling out Louisiana Checkbook. Kevin Barnhart has that story.
Policy Director at the Division of Administration, Jock Berry, says the state government prioritizes the idea of transparency and that it's ranked 7th in the nation. While the website will start with only a few select departments, Berry says it is expected to be completed with all departments of the state government over the next few years.
The entire implementation schedule is a 3-year schedule and waves to hope to have the entirety of state government spending accessible to citizens by 2021.
You can see the website for yourself at checkbook.la.gov. I'm Kevin Barnhart.
A gunman is on the run in Shreveport. Shreveport police are on the hunt for Isaiah Martin. Martin is accused of shooting at Shreveport police officers during a traffic stop Sunday afternoon. 2 officers pulled over a vehicle on Wallace Avenue around 4 p.m. During the stop, Martin produced a gun and fired several shots at the officers before fleeing the scene on foot. No police officers were hurt during the incident. Martin is wanted by SPD for attempted first-degree murder of an officer. A Bossier man allegedly burns his own house down. David Ward has been arrested following a fire and standoff with police at his home in Bossier. Police believe Ward set fire to his own home in the 4700 block of Jeb Stewart Place. When police arrived on the scene just before 11, Ward began threatening officers with a handgun. After a brief standoff, Ward was taken into custody and arrested. The home suffered severe damage in the incident. Shreveport police need a hand tracking down a man accused of stealing over $1,100 of goods from a business on Uri Drive. Security cam footage shows a man stealing multiple items from the Simply Mac store back in April. You can watch the footage on our website. A $1,000 reward is being offered for any information leading to an arrest. One person is dead following a late-night crash just outside of Vivian. According to Caddo deputies, the wreck happened on Highway 170 around 10 p.m. Sunday night. For some unknown reason, the driver of the pickup truck lost control of their vehicle and left the roadway. An investigation into the accident is ongoing. Authorities say a pedestrian who was struck by an on-duty police officer in Baton Rouge has died. The Baton Rouge Advocate reports the pedestrian struck by an on-duty Baton Rouge officer on Saturday has been identified as 51-year-old John Payne. Officials say Payne was pronounced dead at a hospital. The officer was not injured in the crash and has been placed on paid administrative leave. And King James has a new throne. After opting out the last year of his contract with the Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James has signed a 4-year, $153 million deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. From 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, I'm Matt Parker.
1017 FM and 710 Keel. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Will start with this because we've got a short segment and one more biggin with Stephen Parr from American Ground Radio, her nightly here on Keel 6 till 7 with Louis R. Avalone. This is a story I had last week, and so I'll try to update it as I go. But every time if I stumble or err and say presidential candidate, Mexican presidential candidate, what I mean to say is the guy who freaking won.
President-elect.
Mexican presidential candidate, see already. The guy who won.
Yeah.
Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, known colloquially as AMLO, has declared that mass immigration to the United States is a human right for all Mexicans and Central Americans. Here's his quote from the speech last week before he won. And soon, very soon, after our victory, well, he did win.
Yeah, he did.
We will defend all the migrants on the continent and their right to enter the USA. The right, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Migrants must leave their towns and find a life in the United States. He then declared Mexican migration to the USA is a human right that we will defend. So, point one. It occurs to me that if you are going to win the presidency of any major country, and Mexico is a borderline major country, the point I'm making is that to win an election of that stature, of that magnitude, you've got to get Juan and Juanita public.
Right.
Juan and Juanita Doe. And it occurs to me that he's telling the people, the working class, the poor people of Mexico, he won, by the way, that the cornerstone of his campaign was, if I win, I want you to leave.
It's because their second, or I'm sorry, their third, I think it's their third biggest economic industry is money coming back to Mexico through transfers.
Hold on. Give me 30 seconds on this. We'll go to break and pick it up when we come back.
All right. I'm just saying that's that money transfers coming back from the U.S. This is an economic thing for Mexico. They're making money off of illegal immigration, and it's propping up their economy.
Which is why you see, with all the people that are entering the country at the border now, especially, separating kids, detention, that they actually have rest stations along the way in Mexico.
The government of Mexico prints up flyers teaching people how to get around our immigration system.
And I saw that the people, that was the latest influx last week, that they had come maybe not more than 10 or 12 miles from a Mexican government rest station in Reynosa.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, wait a second, who's organizing this? Who's behind that? We'll talk about that when we get back. 21 away from 9 o'clock, 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Traffic update. Here's Ruben.
The intersection at Hearn Avenue and 4th Street's dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on East Texas Street near Traffic Street in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
1017 FM, because your name's not on the show. 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Robert J. Wright and Erin McCarty. Erin away for the week. Steve Parr is here for about another 20 minutes or so. It occurs to me, and we were talking about Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, the president-elect of Mexico.
Elmo.
And the cornerstone, no, not like the Sesame Street guy, Elmo, not Elmo. Although I think we're on to something.
I think we're on to something.
And the cornerstone, there were two basic tenets, the foundation of his political campaign was, if you're poor and you live in Mexico, I want you to leave and go to the United States.
Yeah.
So basically, on one hand, he's admitting, I can't fix this country. I can't fix this place.
Mm-hmm.
We are a failed narco state. I've used that term before, as have others. We are basically an economic disaster of haves and have-nots. And if you are in the have-nots, I want you to vote for me because that's the majority of voters.
Right.
I want you, the poor people of Mexico, to vote for me, vote me into office, and then I want you to get out of town.
Right. I want you to go to the United States, and I want you to break their laws, and then I want you to take money from there and send it back while they subsidize your existence.
I want you to go to the USA illegally and get free health care and education and housing and food.
And then send me your extra money.
And then if there's anybody in the USA who says maybe this is a bad idea, we will brand them racist, xenophobic, and bigoted.
Yep.
The other cornerstone, the other tenet of his campaign was he is no longer going to use the military to fight the drug cartels.
Right.
So the point Matt made was, Matt goes, as his head was about to explode, what was it you said? Let me see if I got this right. The guy that all the poor people in Mexico, everybody he won in a landslide, the guy who's going to be president of Mexico wants all the poor people to leave and is going to let the drug cartels run the country to an even greater degree.
Yes.
That's the guy who won in a landslide.
That's his platform. That's exactly right. And by the way, encouraging human trafficking to the United States falls right in line with what the drug cartels are wanting to do anyway.
It occurs to me that as we get closer and closer to, well, this year's midterm and the presidential election in 2020, that literally the platform of the Democratic Party is Trump is Hitler, and we should have completely open borders. I mean, anytime, and I never get involved with political stuff on Facebook. It's just that's walking in the quicksand, my friend.
Yeah.
But when I talk to people that I know, and some of them look at and they go, "Oh, we need to be a country of compassion. And they walk through the whole open borders argument.
Yep.
And I start here. And this, to me, is the platform of the Democrat Party approaching the midterm elections. Anyone should get to come here at any time for any reason, come and go as they please, stay as long as they want, and while they're here, take advantage of our entitlement programs, including housing, health care, and education.
That's all. You're correct on all that. That's their platform. But I don't think the Democrats are running on their platform. I think they have a platform so that they can run on emotion. It's not about the policies, whether the policies will work for them. It's about whether the emotion makes you feel something. They're not trying to win on the intellect. They're not trying to win that their policies are correct. They're trying to win by getting enough people so emotionally involved.
Oh, those poor children.
Oh, those poor children. How we are a rich enough, how long have you heard this? We are a rich enough country that we shouldn't have people sleeping on the streets.
I tend to believe the upward end of the estimates of illegal immigration, illegal immigrants in this country. And so most everybody will admit to 20 million. I think it's probably closer to 30. The point is, if there's 30 million, that's a quarter of Mexico. 1/4 of Mexico is here.
Yeah. Seriously, the second, it's possible that the second largest collection of Mexican nationals is in Los Angeles. I mean, that's behind Mexico City, maybe LA. That's crazy.
So back to the point that I made earlier this hour, because it is it is basically, it's unsustainable. Literally, there. If you've heard a million times, if you don't have a border, you don't have a country.
But you haven't heard that from Democrats. You've heard that from Republicans.
But if you allow more and more and more illegals into the country, an unchecked flow, it puts such a strain on everything, specifically the entitlement programs in this country. Is the end game, and I'm certainly not the first to proffer this thought, is the end game creating a permanent underclass and or to put such weight on the system that it collapses?
No. The end game is for the people that are running for office to have power. It's not about I don't think they've played their end policies out. I think they go, we won't be Venezuela. I think, look, Hillary wasn't running for president.
So you don't think, for example, when I say, and I'm talking about the globalists in Europe now, when they allow the unchecked immigration into Germany, for example, all the EU globalists, my sense is that they are so locked into a one world government that any terrorist activity, that anyone who's killed in the process of creating this one world government, that is acceptable collateral damage. Are you saying that you think the opposite of, not the opposite, you think that in this country that the people who are for open borders, the real movers and shakers, haven't thought it through?
Yes, I really do think they haven't fully thought it through. And I think that because their worldview is that immigration is good, whenever there is a terrorist attack, they're able to say, wait a minute, that's an outlier. That's not the real issue. That's a separate issue. And so their confirmation bias discards anything that goes against their pre-existing ideas that immigration is good. So look, just because we had a couple of terrorists doesn't mean that all immigrants are bad. And so they're able to discard that threat as being an outlier, not as being the end result.
But you don't see, from the open borders crowd, you don't see as an end game an attempt to collapse the entitlement system of the USA. You don't see as an end game just a complete unchecked flow of
I think they want an unchecked flow of immigrants, but I don't think they think that's a bad thing. And I don't think they think it's going to collapse the economic system. I think they think ultimately that will lead to their personal positions of power. I don't think they've done the math correctly to understand that it will collapse the system.
So in the end, what you're telling me is, as I always say, the people who voted for Obamacare never have to have Obamacare.
Right.
The people who vote for gun control always have armed guards. And the people who are for open immigration, countries, there are no borders. These are the people who, in fact, live behind walls of their own and are protected, once again, from the policies that they themselves incorporate.
Right. And so it doesn't, the reality of the world they're creating doesn't ever get to creep into the reality of the world they exist in.
Steve Parr, American Ground Radio, nightly 6 till 7 on Q with Louis R. Avalone. What you guys covering tonight?
Well, coming up this week on Wednesday, 4th of July, we started.
Yes.
We started this whole radio thing for us started last year. We did a 3-hour special for you and Robert, you and Erin, right?
Yeah.
And it was we asked people all over the country, big names, some people that you haven't heard of, but Tucker Carlson, Diamond and Silk. What makes America great? What is it about America that's great to you? And we got some of the most amazing answers last year. We're taking that and we're kind of putting it together for a 4th of July special coming up on
Let's
Wednesday.
take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have a very short segment. I want you to tell me what you think America. I want you to tell me, Stephen Parr, what you think makes America great. And I hope you work your dad into it. 851, 1017 FM, 710 Keel traffic time. Here's Ruben.
The intersection at Hearn Avenue and Ford Street's dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on East Texas Street near Traffic Street in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness traffic hotline. That's 687-ROAD.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Heather Zayer.
American Ground Radio's Morning Minute.
Last week, President Trump met with angel families who've had family members killed by illegal aliens. He said he did this because the media is only focusing on families of illegal aliens, not families who are already here.
And he's got a point, because according to a new Rasmussen poll, a majority of Americans blame illegal immigrant parents for the child crisis on the border over Donald Trump.
And as if to prove his point, only CBS and Fox covered the story at the top of their websites. Everyone else ignored it completely.
American Ground Radio, where building a better America begins with building a better us. Return each weeknight from 6 to 7 p.m. with Louis R. Avalone and Stephen Parr on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, and streaming live at KEELnews.com.
Oh, the bumper's running. We were just laughing so hard. 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Robert and Erin. She'll be back a week from Monday. Steve Parr from American Ground. We were off the air. If you're watching on the video stream on YouTube or Facebook, we were laughing about the lady in Russia who's 116 years old.
Yeah.
And all she had to say was, I wish I were dead.
I've never had a good day in my life.
I
Made
wish
me so sad.
I were dead. You're 116. Oh, my. I've never had one happy moment in my life.
Yeah.
Wow.
Apparently not a Russia World Cup soccer team fan.
4th of July, just a couple of days away.
Uh-huh.
And I asked you going to break, I want you to tell me why you think America is great, but I'm going to change that.
Okay.
Because
I've been preparing all break for that question, Robert.
Too bad. What I want you to do is tell me the story about your father.
Uh-huh.
Who, an Army veteran.
Yep.
A doctor.
Yep.
An amazing man.
Went to West Point.
Because and the story about bragging.
Okay.
And if you haven't heard this story, it's amazing, and it is in a nutshell, in microcosm, this kind of man, your father, is why America is so great.
So a couple years ago, I got to introduce him. He was speaking for a Veterans Day event, and I got to introduce him, which was kind of a rare opportunity. And my talk there was, there's one day my dad called me, and he called to brag. And that's a rare occasion. My dad's just not a bragger. And he called to brag. I said, great, go ahead, Dad, brag. And he said, I scored a goal in my adult outdoor co-ed soccer game. And he was in his 50s, 60s at this time. And I thought, well, hey, that's great, Dad. Way to do that. And then I went ahead and talked about all the times he didn't call me. Like when he was named the outstanding lieutenant colonel in the United States military. Like when he was named to Texas Monthly's top docs. When he was named to USA Today's top docs. When he became chief of staff of not just of his hospital, but of every hospital in the Houston area. I didn't get a phone call for those events. I got a phone call for an outdoor soccer league. That's just the type of person that he is that, the Bronze Stars. Of course, I wasn't alive when he got the Bronze Stars.
Tell everybody about his Vietnam service.
Yeah, he served in Vietnam. He was the commander of an armored infantry company. In his time in Vietnam as commander, he did not lose a single soldier, not a single one. And they got in a firefight where everybody was injured. He didn't lose a single soldier in Vietnam. That was quite a feat in those days. but it was just because he was just a mean SOB to the opposition and took such good care of his own soldiers. And when you come back to what is it that makes America great, it's not that we have individual heroes. I'm not trying to say my dad's a hero. I'm trying to say that there is greatness within him, but there's greatness within everybody. Every single person that's listening, every single person has greatness somewhere within. And I know this because we're all created in the image of God. And God is great, right? Well, if we're created in the image of God, God's great. That means there's greatness within you. There's greatness within Matt. There's greatness within everybody. And what makes America great is that it allows us to achieve, to let the greatness that's within us manifest in the real world. My father has achieved greatness several times over, and it's because this country has allowed him the opportunity to do that. And the more people we get in this country that are able to achieve that level of greatness, to let what's inside them manifest in the real world, the stronger this country becomes.
Stephen Parr, American Ground Radio. Awesome stuff. Thank you for joining us. Back on KEEL tonight, 6 till 7 with Louis R. Avalone. A pleasure as always, my friend. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
859, 1017 FM, 710 KEEL. Ruben, one more look at traffic.
The intersection at Hearn Avenue and Ford Street's dealing with some slow-moving traffic right now. And we have some traffic delays on East Texas Street near Traffic Street in Bossier City. If you have anything to report to us, please give us a call at our Planet Fitness Traffic Hotline. That's 687 Road.
Your AccuWeather.com forecast. Very hot today with partly sunny skies and a high near 100. After an evening thunderstorm, partly cloudy tonight, low 76. With your AccuWeather.com forecast, I'm meteorologist Ted
Breaking
Zare.
news and trending talk. This is 1017 FM and 710 KEEL. KEEL, Shreveport.